Fox News is absolutely freaking out after Vice President Kamala Harris delivered a fantastic interview with the NABJ, the National Association of Black Journalists. If you remember, this was the same group in which Donald Trump interviewed, and at like the end of July, and it was a complete and utter disaster. This is where Donald Trump accused Kamala Harris of saying that she is not black. This is where Donald Trump attacked the moderators, made a complete fool out of himself. And this was one of the big moments in this election where people were kind of tuning in for the first time and seeing what a madman Donald Trump really is. So what is Fox doing? They are coping real hard, so to speak. They do not know how to handle this. Well, I guess they do. They know how to handle this the only way they know how to handle everything. They pump up the propaganda. They start whining that everything is rigged, and they just start crying on TV to defend Donald Trump. So here's where they start. They have Jesse Waters, the chief stooge, Tucker Carlson knockoff on Fox News. And he speaks about Kamala Harris's interview with the NABJ. And he says, this is rigged. It's rigged so she doesn't have to compete.
Think about the words she's been repeating for the last 3 months. New generation. Turn the page, optimism, ambition, middle-class opportunity. She just strings those buzzwords that have been poll tested together, and then she just runs out the clock in the interview. It's easy because they let her get away with it. Meanwhile, Trump has to basically hit 3 pointers with his hands in his face in front of a hostile crowd. They lower the rim to about 4 feet. She gets 3 shots. No one's in the arena, and she still can't make the shot. And the American people see how they're rigging it, so she doesn't have to compete, and they know it, and they don't trust her.
Yeah. Then you have Judge Jeanine, who is always completely unhinged. Judge Jeanine accusing the Association of Black Journalists of bias, saying 2 of them work on NBC, the third is with NPR. Look, they're all left-leaning. What's Kamala even saying? Here, play it.
And then finally, the Association of Black Journalists, 2 of them work on MSNBC, and the third guy's with NPR. They're all left-leaning. At least Trump was willing to go into the lion's den, and she could have turned people around, but she doesn't have the mental ability to do it. The only thing she could do is pull back to the memorization that she had when she was prepping for the debate with Trump and try to pull those whole sentences out. I don't think she even understands what she's saying.
And Donald Trump's campaign manager, Jason Miller, was complaining about bias, saying, I can't quite put my finger on it, but the tone of this NABJ interview with Kamala Harris seems to be just a little bit different than the tone of their interview with Trump. What changed? Well, maybe Kamala Harris didn't come out there and immediately start yelling at the moderators. Maybe she actually answered the questions thoughtfully. Maybe she didn't give racist remarks throughout her answers in front of the National Association of Black Journalists. You give what you get in this world, and Donald Trump came there to fight. He showed up an hour late, if you remember, and he showed up late because he refused to allow them to do fact checks on him. That was the big backstage blow up where he was whining like a baby, refused to even come out. He then made up an excuse that there were equipment problems and that's why he didn't come out. But the fact is he came out an hour late because he refused to be fact checked. The NABJ refused to abide by his rules. Ultimately, they played a game of chicken. He did come out. He stayed for a half an hour where he was expected to be there for an hour and then stormed out like a petulant child. That is why the tone was a little different, and that's why the questions were different. Kellyanne Conway on Fox immediately got to spinning the interview, and she said that Kamala Harris, she was a little condescending. Here, play this one.
It's pretty typical. I found the vice president to be a little condescending, if not rude, to the moderators today when they dare push her to actually answer the question that they asked, and they had every right to ask, including, we saw probably 30 minutes ago, Martha and Patrick, a question about handguns. She wanted to talk about assault weapons. The moderator tried to get her back to talk about handguns. She doesn't like that. And I think Kamala Harris takes the media for granted the way she takes for granted hardcore Democrats who have never voted any other way, who are excited about her candidacy and wearing her hats, buttons, and shirts.
And just as a reminder to what Trump was like at the NABJ, remember, this is how he came out. He was asked about some of his recent racist statements that he made and was asked why black voters should trust him. His response was to attack the moderators and say that it was a horrible question. How dare they?
Your time. I want to start by addressing the elephant in the room, sir. A lot of people did not think it was appropriate for you to be here today. You have pushed false claims about some of your rivals, from Nikki Haley to former President Barack Obama, saying that they were not born in the United States. which is not true. You have told 4 congresswomen of color who were American citizens to go back to where they came from. You have used words like animal and rabbit to describe black district attorneys. You've attacked black journalists, calling them a loser, saying the questions that they ask are, quote, stupid and racist. You've had dinner with a white supremacist at your Mar-a-Lago resort. So my question, sir, now that you are asking black supporters to vote for you, why should black voters trust you after you have used language like that?
Well, first of all, I don't think I've ever been asked a question so in such a horrible manner. First question. You don't even say, hello, how are you? Are you with ABC? Because I think they're a fake news network, a terrible network. And I think it's disgraceful that I came here in good spirit. I love the black population of this country. I've done so much for the black population of this country.
Then this was the same event where Donald Trump said Kamala Harris was not black.
Follow up, sir, and then we'll move on to other questions here. Some of your own supporters, including Republicans on Capitol Hill, have labeled Vice President Kamala Harris, who is the first black and Asian American woman to serve as vice president and be on a major party ticket, as a DEI hire. Is that acceptable language to you? And will you tell those Republicans and those supporters to stop it?
How do you define DEI? Go ahead. How do you define
diversity, equity, inclusion?
Okay, yeah, go ahead. Is that what your definition?
That is
give me a
literally
definition then. Would you give me a definition of that? Give me a definition.
Sir, I'm asking you a question, a very direct question.
Define it for me if you
I just defined it, sir. Do you believe that Vice President Kamala Harris is only on the ticket because she is a black woman?
Well, I can say no. I think it's maybe a little bit different. So I've known her a long time indirectly, not directly very much, and she was always of Indian heritage, and she was only promoting Indian heritage. I didn't know she was black until a number of years ago when she happened to turn black, and now she wants to be known as black. So I don't know, is she Indian or is she black?
She is always identified as a black woman.
I respect either one. I respect either one, but she obviously doesn't, because she was Indian all the way, and then all of a sudden she made a turn and she became a black person.
Just to be clear, sir, do you believe that
I think somebody should look into that too when you ask continue in a very hostile, nasty tone.
It's a direct.
Then this is where a very cranky and whiny Trump started complaining to host Harris Faulkner, who comes from Fox. She's a host on Fox, who's with the NABJ, and he starts complaining that the equipment's bad. He's unable to hear him because the equipment's so terrible.
It is going down, and our crime rate is going to be a disaster.
Mr. President, I want to get into how you address some of the issues with black communities. And I say that plural because we live in communities of color that are different. We're not all the same. We don't vote the same. We don't think the same.
True.
It's not monolithic. So as you come here today, I want to talk about something that bursts. And this is the weight of the inflation on this country right now. The nonprofit Money Management International recently released data from its mid-year analysis that we have found a 52% rise in people who are seeking counseling for being in credit debt. They're paying for food that is sky high on their credit cards, and now they can't pay that off. The credit counseling nonprofit MMI, as I said, is saying now that they've seen surges that they haven't seen since we were in a pandemic of people in financial trouble. Much of that falls on the shoulders of single moms, single black moms, when you look statistically. Yeah. How do you turn it around? What's your plan for the black community when it comes to money?
So, first of all, it's very hard to hear you for whatever reason because of the fact that they have bad equipment, because I guess, this woman was unable to get the right equipment. But it's very hard for me to hear you, but I can hear every other word. It's very difficult, actually. But so I don't know if they can fix it or do something with it, but I'll do the best I can with it.
Now let's compare and contrast. Let's see how somebody who is a normal human being, let's see how somebody who is an actual leader answers questions from the NABJ. Here is Vice President Kamala Harris speaking about the economy, the work she's had to do, and the work ahead.
Voters are better off now than they were 4 years ago. Are they better off now than they were 4 years ago?
So when we came into, well, first of all, let me just say it is good to be with the National Association of Black Journalists, and I thank you for the work you do and that your members do every day. It is very important that we ensure that this organization and your members always have the resources and the platforms to deliver the voices that must be heard. So I thank you for hosting me today. 4 years ago, when we came in during the worst unemployment since the Great Depression. We came in during the worst public health epidemic in centuries. We came in after the worst attack on our democracy since the Civil War. And a lot of it due in large part to the mismanagement by the former president as it relates to COVID and obviously January 6th. And we had then a lot of work to do to clean up a mess. As of today, we have created over 16 million new jobs, over 800,000 new manufacturing jobs. We have the lowest Black unemployment rate in generations. We have invested in small businesses, and they're to the benefit of many people, but including Black small businesses, some of the highest rate of creation of new Black small businesses in years. We have done the work of capping the cost of prescription medication for our seniors for issues like insulin. And again, I'm speaking to the Black journalists who care about all people, but in particular, I'll talk about the impact on Black people, where we know Black folks are 60% more likely to be diagnosed with diabetes. And we have now finally capped the cost of insulin for our seniors at $35 a month, capped the cost of prescription medication for our seniors at $2,000 a year, because we, unlike the former president who promised to do it, we finally have allowed Medicare to negotiate drug prices against the big pharmaceutical companies. And these are just some of the accomplishments. Is the price of groceries still too high? Yes. Do we have more work to do? Yes. And I will tell you, I do believe that I offer a new generation of leadership for our country that is about, in particular, turning the page on an era that sadly has shown us attempts by some to incite fear, to create division in our country, and to do the work that is about bringing some level of optimism and, dare I say, ambition about what I know is possible in our country. And so my plan for the economy includes what I imagine and believe and call an opportunity economy. What we can do to grow an opportunity economy where all people have access to the resources to compete, to apply their incredible work ethic, their ambition, their aspirations, and their dreams, and actually not just get by, but get ahead. And I can talk in more detail about it, but specifically, I'll mention a few things. Yeah. One of the big issues that affects people right now in terms of the economy and their economic well-being is we have a shortage of housing supply. It's too expensive. People can't afford to buy a home. You know, we grew up, our parents, where they had the ability to somehow believe the American dream was attainable. Not so much for younger working people. And I recognize that. So my approach is a new approach, which is to say, let's just take this and deal with it head on. And part of my approach is to say, I'm going to employ and engage the private sector, in particular home builders with tax credits, to give them the incentive to create new housing, 3 million by the end of my first term, and understanding that not everybody is, handed a silver spoon, but works hard and is trying to save up for a down payment. Part of my plan under my opportunity economy is to give first-time home buyers a $25,000 down payment assistance so they can just get their foot in the door to be able to then engage in what will prove to be their opportunity to build intergenerational wealth. And here's my personal experience coming at that. I grew up a middle-class kid. My mother was hardworking. She raised me and my sister Maya. She saved up. And it was only by the time I was a teenager that she could afford to actually buy her first home. And I know, and I identify with, I know where I come from.
Madam Vice President.
And I know, but I'm just going to finish. I know that so many people work so hard and should have the opportunity to just get their foot in the door. Again, so it's not just about getting by, but getting ahead. Please.
I'd like to.
Here's Vice President Harris announcing that she actually spoke with Donald Trump in the wake of the shooter near the golf course, near Trump's golf course in Florida, to make sure that he was okay.
Have you spoken to him?
I have.
And earlier today, I assume?
Yes.
How'd that go? You want to give us some intel?
Sure. I checked on him to see if he was okay.
Yeah.
And I told him what I have said publicly. There's no place for political violence in our country. I am in this election and this race for many reasons, including to fight for our democracy. And in a democracy, there is no place for political violence. We can and should have healthy debates and discussion and disagreements, but not resort to violence to resolve those issues.
All right, are you ready for this fact? Traditional bed sheets can harbor more bacteria than a toilet seat. It can lead to acne, allergies, and stuffy noses. It's just gross. Miracle Made, however, offers a whole line of self-cleaning antibacterial bedding, such as sheets, pillowcases, and comforters that prevent up to 99.7% of bacteria growth and require up to 3 times less laundry. It's why I use Miracle Made on my bedding. Using silver-infused fabrics inspired by NASA, Miracle Made sheets are thermoregulating and designed to keep you at the perfect temperature all night long, no matter the weather, so you get a better sleep every single night. It's why I love Miracle Sheets. Miracle Sheets are luxuriously comfortable without the high price tag of other luxury brands and feel as nice, if not nicer, than sheets used by some 5-star hotels. So go to trymiracle.com/Meidas. Trymiracle.com/Meidas and try Miracle Made sheets today. And whether you're buying them for yourself or as a gift for a loved one, if you order today, you can save up to 40%. And if you use our promo code Meidas at checkout, you'll get 3 free towels and save an extra 20%. Miracle is so confident in their product, it's backed by a 30-day money-back guarantee. So if you aren't 100% satisfied, you'll get a full refund. Upgrade your sleep with Miracle Made. Go to trymiracle.com/Meidas and use the code Meidas to claim your free 3-piece towel set and save over 40% off. Again, that's trymiracle.com/Meidas to treat yourself. Thank you, Miracle Made, for sponsoring this episode.
Then Kamala Harris was asked if she had confidence in the Secret Service to protect her, and she gave a incredibly selfless answer that yes, she does feel comfortable, but also there are plenty of Americans out there right now who feel unsafe, and that's not okay. Play it.
You have full confidence in the Secret Service to protect all of you?
I do.
You feel safe for you and your family?
I do. But, I mean, you can go back to Ohio. Not everybody has Secret Service. And there are far too many people in our country right now who are not feeling safe.
Then the reporter asked about her laughing and how her opponent, Donald Trump, and his campaign have tried to weaponize her laughing in campaign ads to try to use it as a negative. Here was the vice president's response.
Okay, back to my joyful part.
And your opponent and Republicans have at times weaponized you laughing in campaign ads, for example. Why is joy important to you to insert into this election? And what do you make of Republicans using that as a way to suggest that you're not a serious candidate?
Well, sometimes I think, and I'll say to whoever the young people are who are watching this, there are some times when your adversaries will try and turn your strength into a weakness. Don't you let them. Don't you let them. I find joy in the American people. I find joy and optimism in what I see to be our future and our ability to invest in it. I find joy in the ambition of the people. I find joy in the dreams of the people. I find joy in building community. I find joy in building coalitions. I find joy in believing that the true measure of the strength of a leader is not based on who you beat down, but who you lift up. And I think we should all find joy and have a sense of optimism about who we are as Americans and what we mean to each other and what we can do to lift each other up.
Madam Vice President.
Vice President Harris also brought up this absolutely horrific, tragic story out of Georgia that was written about in ProPublica a couple days ago. This was the story about a couple women in Georgia who were unable to get the abortion care that they needed due to these Trump abortion bans, these incredibly strict rules, and died as a result of their pregnancy complications. Here's Vice President Harris talking about it.
Understand what is happening in our country. Over 20 states have passed what I call Trump abortion bans because I understand how we got here. The former president handpicked 3 members of the United States Supreme Court with the intention they would undo the protections of Roe v. Wade. They did as he intended, and in state after state, laws have been passed criminalizing healthcare providers. I don't know if anyone here has heard most recently the stories out of Georgia. Tragic story about a young woman who died because it appears the people who should have given her health care were afraid they'd be criminalized after the Dobbs decision came down. Laws that make no exception even for rape or incest, which means that you're telling a survivor of a crime of a violation to their body that they have no right to make a decision about what happens to their body next, which is immoral. An approach that doesn't take into account that most people, I think, agree you don't have to abandon your faith or deeply held beliefs to agree the government should not be telling her what to do with her body. If she chooses, she will talk with her pastor, her priest, her rabbi, her imam, but it should not be the government or Donald Trump telling her what to do about her own body and her life.
Then Vice President Harris spoke a lot about these attacks on Haitians living in Ohio and across the country. This has been absolutely horrific, these lies that are being pushed by J.D. Vance, by Donald Trump, by Elon Musk to demonize this community who was invited into the community to help take these incredibly important jobs at factories and elsewhere. So here was Vice President Harris, some of her first comments on this during this NABJ event, saying that this was a crying shame, that her heart breaks for the community.
Vice President, I want to move to Springfield, Ohio, and what's happening there. We've seen school closures, parents worried about their kids leaving the home because of racist conspiracy theories that I won't repeat here, but they have been repeated by leaders on the Republican side, President Trump, former President Trump, and Vice Presidential nominee J.D. Vance. From your perspective, is this just a case of irredeemable racism that can't be mitigated by any rational action? Or is this a situation in which a federal response could help this community heal? There's a question of resources and...
Well, no, I'll let you finish and then I'll speak.
No.
It's a crying shame. I mean, my heart breaks for this community. You know, there were children, elementary school children, who it was school photo day. You remember what that's like? Going to school on picture day? Who were dressed up in their best, got all ready, knew what they were going to wear the night before, and had to be evacuated. Children. A whole community put in fear. And I'll say a couple things about it. One, you know, I learned a long time ago in my career, having a background as a prosecutor, when you have these positions, when you have that kind of microphone in front of you, you really ought to understand at a very deep level how much your words have meaning. I learned at a very young stage in my career that the meaning of my words could impact whether somebody was free or in prison. As Attorney General, I was of California, 5th largest economy in the world. I was acutely aware that my words could move markets. When you are bestowed with a microphone that is that big, there is a profound responsibility that comes with that. That is an extension of what should not be lost in this moment, this concept of the public trust, to then understand what the public trust means. It means that you have been invested with trust to be responsible in the way you use your words, much less how you conduct yourself. And especially when you have been and then seek to be again President of the United States of America. And so I go back to, it's a crying shame, literally, what's happening to those families, those children in that community.
Continuing to speak about these attacks on Haitians, Vice President Harris talked about Donald Trump's history of racist attacks just like this.
This is not new. This is not new in terms of these tropes. This is not new in terms of where it's coming from. And, you know, whether it is refusing to rent to people, rent to Black families, whether it is taking out a full-page ad in the New York Times against 5 innocent Black and Latino teenagers, the Central Park 5, calling for their execution, whether it is referring to the first Black president of the United States with a lie.
And finally, Vice President Harris just said, you know, enough is enough. I think most Americans have had enough of this. This is exhausting. This is harmful, and Americans are sick of it.
The American people deserve, and I do believe want better than this. I do believe that. I know the vast majority of us as Americans know we have so much more in common than what separates us. I know that. I know that regardless of someone's background, their race, their gender, their geographic location, I know that people are deeply troubled by what is happening to that community in Springfield, Ohio. And it's got to stop. And we've got to say that you cannot be entrusted with standing behind the seal of the President of the United States of America, engaging in that hateful rhetoric that, as usual, is designed to divide us as a country, is designed to have people pointing fingers at each other. It's designed to do that. And I think most people in our country, regardless of their race, are starting to see through this nonsense and to say, you know what, let's turn the page on this. This is exhausting, and it's harmful, and it's hateful, and grounded in some age-old stuff that we should not have the tolerance for. So let's turn the page and chart a new way forward and say, you can't have that microphone again.
Meanwhile, at around exactly the same time, J.D. Vance was giving a speech, and he was amplifying these same lies against the Haitian community. And he called the American media liars for fact-checking him in this master display of projection. This is really, really disgusting.
A lot of people who pretend to be fair journalists, you know what they've been saying? For the last few days, Springfield has been experiencing an unbelievable number, something like 35, 40 bomb threats in Springfield in just the last few days. And you know what the governor of Ohio came out yesterday and said? Every single one of those bomb threats was a hoax, and all of those bomb threats came from foreign countries. So the American media for 3 days has been lying and saying that Donald Trump and I are inciting bomb threats, when in reality, the American media has been laundering foreign disinformation. It is disgusting. And every single one of them owes the residents of Springfield an apology. But I think it illustrates something, my friends, that is so sick from the American press in 2024. And it's that instead of talking about the crises in our country, they try to silence the people who are experiencing them. Because their message in talking about these bomb threats and in lying to the American people and saying they came from me and Donald Trump, what they're doing is trying to shut all of us up. They're trying to say, how dare you, citizens of Springfield, complain about this migrant inflow because now these bomb threats are happening. How dare you complain about the fact that you can't afford housing? How dare you complain about Kamala's open border? The media conspired to shut American citizens up. They owe every single American an apology, and they ought to... And after giving every single American an apology, why don't they think about covering the real crisis, which is Kamala's open border and its many, many victims? Focus on the real story, American media. Stop trying to shut up the people who are telling the real story. Do your job. Cover what's going on in this race, and the American people will be better off for it.
Meanwhile, Fox had Laura Ingraham try to cut into Trump's event yesterday to try to make him look good in all of this. And of course, the second she cuts in, he's spewing disinformation about the 2020 election.
Onto the stage, he's now about to talk about the second assassination attempt. So let's dip in and see what he has to say.
We then ran in 2020. We did much better than 2016. People don't like to hear it. Oh, he's a conspiracy theorist, We got millions and millions more votes. We did much better. It wasn't even a contest. I was telling one of the papers, they said, what was the difference? I said, well, the difference is we did much, much better the second time. But we had a lot of things happen. We know what those things are. So
then Fox had to quickly cut out of the Trump event to seine-wash what their viewers just saw and give them some more propaganda.
Never seen anything like it. It blows it away from 2016, from 2020. And basically, it's very simple. You're saying what? We're going to seal the border immediately. We're going to drill, baby, drill. We're going to drill at a level. We're going to bring your energy prices down.
Joining me now, Judge Jeanine Pirro, co-host on The Five. We're going to dip back in to Trump's event with Sarah Huckabee Sanders in Arkansas as he addresses the second assassination attempt on his life. Judge, great to see you tonight, as always. So my angle is about the revenge and rage tour. And when you watched Hillary...
Now, let me just show you that this isn't just the media calling out J.D. Vance and Donald Trump here. These are the people in the community, and these are the Republican politicians in the community. Here was a statement from the GOP mayor, Rue, of Springfield, Ohio. He said, quote, any political leader that takes the national stage and has the national spotlight needs to understand the gravity of the words that they have for cities like ours, and what they say impacts our cities. And we've had bomb threats the last 2 days. We've had personal threats the last 2 days, and it's increasing because the national stage is swirling this up. Springfield, Ohio was caught in a political vortex, and it is a bit out of control. We are a wonderful city, a beautiful town, and for what it's worth, your pets are safe in Ohio. Let me just show you a list of the ongoing lockdowns that have occurred over the past few days in Springfield, Ohio. This is a pretty exhaustive list, but there are even more than this at this point. These are places that either have been placed on lockdown, that were evacuated, closed, or searched at some point over the last week due to threats that coincided with Senator J.D. Vance and Donald Trump amplifying these lies about the Haitian community. So I could go through this list right now. Springfield City Hall, the Bureau of Motor Vehicles, the Driver's Exam Station, the local Ohio License Bureau, the Springview Government Center, the Clark County Department of Job and Family Services, the Clark County Common Pleas Court, the Clark County Board of Elections, the Clark County Juvenile Court, the A.B. Graham Building, the Springfield Academy of Excellence, the Fulton Elementary School, Perrin Woods Elementary School, Snow Hill Elementary School, Roosevelt Middle School, Kettering Health Springfield, Mercy Health Springfield Regional Medical Center, Wittenberg University, Clark State College, Simon Kenton Elementary School, Kenwood Elementary School. Also, Springfield's annual Culture Fest was canceled on Monday over security concerns. These are real-world effects of the statements made by Donald Trump and J.D. Vance. They have real implications. When you see Donald Trump's answers at NABJ, or when you see J.D. Vance speaking just yesterday, you see people with such a callous disregard for humanity. Then you see Vice President Kamala Harris get up there and answer her questions diligently, answer her questions with humanity, with detail, with empathy. And then you see Fox absolutely freaking out. You know why? Because the American people are connecting with Vice President Kamala Harris's message, and they recognize exactly what she was saying, that they feel exhausted. They feel absolutely exhausted by this constant game by Donald Trump. And that's why Fox is going to continue to freak out. Trump is going to continue to decrease in the polls, and Fox is going to continue to ramp up their efforts. But that's why this pro-democracy community is going to prevail. We're going to have a steady hand, and we are going to overcome these bad actors. Hey, thank you so much for watching this video. I'm filling in a lot for Ben while he's gone. Ben is on baby watch and probably, a bit more than that. We'll share some more details with you soon. But remember to hit that like button. Remember, hit the subscribe button. Let's keep this channel going, and let's get all the way to 3.5 million subscribers. Thank you so much for watching.
Real quick, Meta just changed their algorithm to suppress political content. Please follow our Instagram @MeidasTouch right now as we head towards 400,000 followers so you don't miss a beat.